Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Balanced Mind, the podcast where we explore how to live a healthier, more intentional life in our busy modern world. I'm your host, William, and today we have a very special guest with us. Sophia is a productivity coach, a writer, and someone who has spent the last few years researching how technology affects our brains. Welcome to the show, Sophia.
Hi, William. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
So, let's dive right into it. Today, we're talking about smartphones, social media, and this new concept that everyone seems to be mentioning lately, digital minimalism. To start off, can you explain what digital minimalism actually means? Is it just about throwing our phones into the ocean and moving to a cabin in the woods?
Well, as tempting as that sounds sometimes, no, it's not about abandoning technology completely. Digital minimalism is basically a philosophy of technology use. It means you intentionally choose which digital tools add real value to your life, and you confidently ignore the rest. It's about taking back control.
That makes sense. But why do you think it's so hard for us to take that control back? I mean, I catch myself scrolling through Instagram for an hour when I only intended to check one message. It feels almost automatic.
You're absolutely right, and you shouldn't feel too guilty about it. It feels automatic because these apps are literally designed to be addictive. Tech companies hire attention engineers whose only job is to figure out how to keep your eyes on the screen for as long as possible. They use unpredictable rewards, just like slot machines in a casino. When you pull down to refresh your feed, you don't know what you're going to get. That uncertainty releases dopamine in your brain.
Wow. Comparing a smartphone to a slot machine is a bit scary, but it's incredibly accurate. So, when did you personally realize that you needed to change your relationship with technology? Was there a specific turning point?
Yes, there was. It was about 3 years ago. I was at a park with my little niece. She was learning how to ride a bicycle for the first time. She called out to me, "Look at me, Sophia!" And I missed it. I completely missed the moment because I was replying to a work email on my phone.
Oh, wow. That must have been a heavy realization.
It really was. I looked up and she looked so disappointed. I realized that my physical body was in the park, but my mind was completely somewhere else. I was sacrificing real, meaningful connections for digital interruptions. That evening, I decided I needed to make a drastic change. I couldn't let screens dictate my life anymore.
I think a lot of our listeners can relate to that feeling of being physically present but mentally absent. So, what was the first step you took? If someone listening right now wants to start practicing digital minimalism, where should they begin?
The most effective way is to start with a digital declutter. Think of it like cleaning your house, but for your phone and computer. I recommend taking a 30-day break from all optional technologies in your life.
30 days? That sounds almost impossible for most people. What do you mean by optional technologies?
It means any app, website, or digital tool that you don't strictly need for your job or your daily survival. So, social media, news apps, video games, and streaming services. You remove them from your phone for a whole month.
And what happens during those 30 days? Do people just sit around staring at the wall?
Initially, yes, people do feel a bit lost. The first week is usually quite difficult. People experience what we can only describe as withdrawal symptoms. You feel bored, anxious, and you constantly reach for a phone that isn't there. But by the second week, something magical happens.
I'm intrigued. What happens?
You start to rediscover what you actually enjoy doing in the real world. When you remove the constant noise of notifications, you suddenly have time to read a book, go for a long walk without headphones, or have a deep conversation with a friend. You get in touch with your own thoughts again.
I love that idea of getting in touch with your own thoughts. I feel like nowadays we are so afraid of boredom that the moment we have 5 spare minutes, like waiting in line for a coffee, we immediately pull out our phones. We don't even let ourselves daydream anymore.
Exactly. Boredom is actually a very important psychological state. It's the birthplace of creativity. When your brain is bored, it starts to connect different ideas and come up with solutions to problems. If we constantly distract ourselves with short-form videos and endless scrolling, we are basically killing our creative potential.
That is a fascinating perspective. I've noticed that myself. Some of my best ideas for this podcast come to me when I'm taking a shower or doing the dishes, times when I literally cannot hold my phone.
Precisely. Your brain finally gets a moment to breathe and process information.
Okay, so let's say someone completes this 30-day digital declutter. They've survived the boredom, they've read a few books, they feel great. What happens on day 31? Do they just download all the apps back and return to their old habits?
That is the trap many people fall into, but that's what we want to avoid. The 30 days isn't just a detox, it's an experiment. At the end of the month, you don't just blindly reinstall everything. You evaluate each app carefully. You ask yourself, did I miss this? Did this app add genuine value to my life? If the answer is no, you leave it deleted. If the answer is yes, you create strict rules for how you will use it.
That is a very strategic approach. Can you give us an example of what those strict rules might look like?
Absolutely. Let's take Instagram as an example, since it's a big time waster for a lot of people. Instead of keeping the app on your phone where you can check it 50 times a day, your new rule might be, I will only check Instagram on my laptop and only on Sunday mornings for 30 minutes. This way, you still get to see updates from your friends, but it no longer controls your daily life. You are putting a fence around your digital habits.
Putting a fence around it. I like that visual. It's like saying, you are welcome in my life, but only in this specific room at this specific time.
Exactly. You become the boss of your own attention again.
Now, I want to shift the focus a little bit to the psychological side of things. We talked about how these apps steal our time, but what about how they affect our mental health? There's a lot of talk about anxiety and FOMO, fear of missing out. How does digital minimalism help with that?
The mental health aspect is perhaps the most crucial part of this whole conversation. Social media platforms are basically highlight reels of other people's lives. You log in and you see someone's perfect vacation, another person's promotion, and someone else's flawless relationship. Our brains are not evolved to process the achievements and happiness of thousands of people simultaneously. It naturally leads to comparison, and comparison is the thief of joy.
That is so true. You can be having a perfectly fine day, feeling good about yourself, and then 5 minutes of scrolling can make you feel like you are failing at life.
Yes, because you are comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's filtered and edited performance. When you practice digital minimalism, you naturally reduce your exposure to this toxic comparison. The FOMO slowly fades away. And you know what replaces the fear of missing out?
What?
JOMO, the joy of missing out. Haha. You start to actually enjoy the fact that you don't know what your high school classmate had for lunch or where a celebrity went on holiday. You become grounded in your own reality. You start to appreciate the simple, quiet moments of your own life without feeling the need to broadcast them to the internet.
The joy of missing out. I think that should be the title of this episode. But let's talk about the workplace for a moment. It's relatively easy to delete a social media app, but what about work? Especially since the pandemic, a lot of us work from home, or we have a hybrid schedule. The line between work time and home time has completely disappeared. How can we be digital minimalists when our bosses expect us to answer emails at 9 p.m.?
That is a huge challenge in the modern workforce. We are dealing with an epidemic of burnout, and constant connectivity is a major cause. The blurring of boundaries means our nervous systems never fully relax. The key here is setting clear boundaries and managing expectations.
But how do you do that without seeming unprofessional or lazy to your employer?
Communication is everything. You don't just disappear. You have an open conversation with your team and your manager. You can say something like, to ensure I produce the highest quality work and maintain my focus, I check my emails at 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and 4 p.m. If there is a true emergency, Please call me on my phone.
Oh, that's clever. You are framing it as a benefit to the company. You are protecting your focus to do better work.
Precisely. No one does their best work when they are constantly interrupted by notifications. Studies show that after a distraction, it takes an average of 23 minutes to regain your deep focus. If you are checking your inbox every 10 minutes, you are never actually doing deep, meaningful work. You are just reacting to things all day.
That explains why I can work for 8 hours, feel completely exhausted by the end of the day, but still feel like I didn't accomplish anything important.
Exactly. When you engage with the physical world, you create real memories. This also drastically improves your real-life relationships. Next time you have coffee with a friend, leave your phone in your bag. Give them your full, undivided attention. It changes the whole dynamic of the conversation.